First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for giving one daughter's share of the college fund to her sister for grad school after she insisted multiple times that she never wanted to go, and telling her she missed her chance and now she changed her mind? I have two adult daughters who are 18 months apart in age. I've been binge watching The Crown, so let's call them Elizabeth, 33, and Margaret, 32. Thanks to a combination of saving and money my husband inherited, we had college funds for them. We told both daughters growing up that we had enough saved for them to get an undergraduate degree debt-free, within reason. We made it clear that we couldn't afford them to go to NYU and put them up in an apartment in Manhattan, but they could go to an in-state school without worrying about loans. Elizabeth was always very studious and got a 75% scholarship to Berkeley. We were able to pay for it, as the scholarship made it comparable to paying for an in-state school. We also went halves with her in the cost of doing a 6-week study abroad trip to Europe that gave degree credit. Margaret was always far less studious and did what she had to do to get by in high school and not an iota more. She chose not to go to college and had no interest in it for years. Margaret has been working in bars and clubs for years and has gotten by fine. She also took some working holiday/backpacking trips abroad. Elizabeth graduated and got a job she was happy with in her field. A few years after graduation, she wanted to do a master's that would enhance her career prospects. We still had Margaret's share of the money. I asked then 28-year-old Margaret if she still had no college plans. Even after I explained I was simply asking to make sure she still wanted to go to college before I gave what was left in the account to Elizabeth for her grad school, Margaret got annoyed about how I'm sick of being asked about college. What part of that do people not understand? We barely ask her, but I know she fielded the question a lot from extended family and with people she met in life. So, we gave it to Elizabeth, who went to/graduated from Stanford with a combination of scholarship/grants and a college fund. 4 years later, Margaret wants the money to go to college and asked us to pay for her. She absolutely lost it when we reminded her she said she didn't need it and we gave it to Elizabeth. I think the pandemic has shaken her and she's realized she needs a real career, as she is now an unemployed 32-year-old bartender in the coronavirus era, and most of her former let's go work/party in Australia for 12 months friends are settling down and having kids. My husband and I simply can't afford to pay for Margaret to go to college now, unless we hand over a huge chunk of our retirement savings and work for many more years than planned. My husband has struggled with a lack of energy since recovering from cancer 3 years ago, so may well need to retire early. I'm also not convinced she has the motivation to follow through all the way to graduation. Am I the a-hole for telling her that we gave her 10 years to take up the option of paying for college? She said repeatedly she didn't want it, and we double-checked before Elizabeth got it. So, she needs to work it out for herself if she wants to go. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's a grown adult at this point. And as a grown adult, wouldn't she have an easier time getting financial aid since she wouldn't have to disclose her family's income? Not the a-hole. You gave her many opportunities, including letting her know about shifting the money to her sister's grad school if she didn't want to go to college. She made her decision, free of outside pressure. Yes, and she's 32. I'm not saying a 32-year-old can't go to the college. She was given opportunity to study at a young age, but she didn't take it. Her decision and her choice. But now she's 32 and no one else is responsible for her but herself. If she's that keen, she should take a loan, not the a-hole. I'm 31 and recently finished a master's. While tuition is cheaper here and I got some low-interest loans to help, at no point did I consider it reasonable to ask my parents to help me out with tuition. Not the a-hole. If it had been just a year or two after high school when you asked her if her decision was final, I'd say it is a bit harsh, especially because I think the pressure put on kids to decide what to do with their whole lives when they are still teenagers is insane. But she was 28 when you asked if her choice was final and she said yes. That's an adult with a few years of life experience under her belt. This. As far as I know, one is usually around 18 when one graduates high school, correct? That means Opie gave her 10 whole years to change her mind, and then only ask for plans, not even set a deadline to be enrolled somewhere or something. And she was informed that the money would go to her sister's education. She still refused. That was her choice, that she now has to live with. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for only paying for my stepdaughter's college? I, 50 male, have 5 daughters. 4 of which, Anna, 24 female, Allie, 22 female, Alex, 20 female, and Angela, 17 female, are biologically mine. I also have a stepdaughter who is 17 female, Sarah, and we plan on having an official adoption when she's 18. My bio daughters live with their mother, and I had weekend visitations, so I'm not as close to them as I am to my stepdaughter. Here's the issue at hand. I only plan on paying for Sarah's university. My bio daughter's mother is low income, so they qualify for student loans and student aid. Sarah, however, does not, because we have a good income, lower middle class. It's too early now to know what scholarships she will get. Despite our good income, between child support and legal fees for Sarah's custody, we are not as high income as we appear on paper. We did not have the means to start a university fund for Sarah, but we plan on reallocating our finances, taking extra hours, and possibly taking out a loan in our name if we need to, in order to pay for Sarah's university, and then having Sarah pay us back. Plus, Sarah started saving for university when she started working. Angela called me up the other day, since she is also researching and making plans for uni, and asked about financial aid from us. I explained that she will qualify for loans, as did her sisters, and that we can't/won't help her pay. This has since caused a lot of issues. Now all my bio daughters are angry at me for not supporting them. I have loaned them money before, so this isn't true, and for favoring my stepdaughter. I explained to them about them qualifying for loans and told them how much I paid over the years in child support, and it isn't my fault their mother didn't handle the money properly. Also, we are not legally on the hook for paying for post-secondary in regards to child support. I'm not sure if I'm the a-hole here. Reasonably, we can't afford to pay for both Angela and Sarah. Am I the a-hole? Edits for clarification. To clarify, 3 out of 5 of my daughters have already been to college. 1 graduated, 1 got pregnant and dropped out, the other 1 failed and dropped out. That part is kinda said and done, although they are still angry. It's only Angela and Sarah who haven't gone to school yet. Right now, they're researching/applying. The money that we will be earning from working overtime/tightening finances isn't going to be a life-altering amount. The major plan is to take out a loan for Sarah and have her pay us back. I realized the wording on the title was bad. Secondly, you all are accusing me of doing the bare minimum by paying child support and explaining child support couldn't pay for university. Read some of my comments where I outline this in detail. To everyone telling me in the comments and in PMs to just pay for college for all of them, why didn't you set up a college fund, etc.? If I could have, I would have. I can't make money materialize. My wife is not a new wife, and Sarah isn't a new kid. I've been married for 15 years and raised Sarah since she was a toddler. We tried to raise them all as sisters as best we could. And now for the top comments. Info. Do please tell us how much money you paid to cover 4 children's upbringing while also providing enough for your half of a university fund for all 4 children. Oh, also, I only plan on paying for Sarah's university. My bio daughter's mother is low income, so they qualify for student loans. So your stepdaughter gets a fully paid education and your daughter gets a bunch of debt? My bio daughters live with their mother and I had weekend visitations, so I am not as close to them as I am to my stepdaughter. Did you even try? You can forge a decent relationship with people you see every weekend, as long as you care to do so. I'm 100% sure you're the a-hole here, but more info would be good. You're the a-hole. Curious to know if OP actually knows how much a child costs, to even multiply it by 4. Must be hard to calculate from this middle income position higher than everyone else, huh? I paid a very large portion of my income over the years. I don't mind that part. Their mother, on the other hand, was constantly wearing designer clothing and getting food from restaurants just for her, while my daughters wore hand-me-downs and ate junk food for supper. I often still had to buy my children stuff, example, laptops for school, new clothing, food for lunch, etc. My ex lived in housing, so I know she had low expenses. I tried going to court to get stipulations on the money and failed. You're right that it would not have covered a university fund for all of them, but there definitely could have been a small portion put away. I don't want any of my children to have debt, but Sarah does not qualify for any assistance other than what she might earn from scholarships. If we don't help Sarah with her university, she might not be able to attend, unlike Angela. And I did try, but seeing my daughters every weekend is not the same as living together, especially because of the long driving distance, and when they got older, they started not wanting to visit us often. We also only have a 3-bedroom house, plus a basement, whereas they had their own bedrooms at home. You're the a-hole. I'll start by saying I don't think any kid is entitled to have their tuition paid by their parents. But you are showing favoritism for your stepdaughter. Just because your daughters can qualify for loans, they are still financially on the hook to pay those back. Your stepdaughter could technically get loans to cover her schooling as well, yet you are opting to help her and not your other children. Also, child support isn't necessarily to be saved for college expenses. It costs a lot of money to raise children, especially 4 of them. And the day-to-day cost of living expenses is what child support should be used for. That was a huge a-hole move to try and throw their mom under the bus in this situation. Your logic is that your bio-daughter can take out loans because she's low income, and you're giving your stepdaughter help because she's higher income? You're the a-hole. To clarify, I meant my bio-daughter gets student loans from the government. I'm trying not to give out too much info, to help out low-income families. Because of our income bracket, my stepdaughter doesn't qualify for anything like that. But we are not actually as high income as we appear on paper. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for guilt-tripping my dad for cutting me and my younger sister out of his will? My dad, 67 male, and I, 24 female, are very close and always have been. He is a good-hearted, generous, kind person who has dedicated his life and career to helping people. I recently found out that he adjusted his will, such that I and my younger sister, 22 female, are not included as beneficiary in any way. Instead, our older brother Nate, 45 male, will get everything. He says that this is solely because he thinks my sister and I can take care of ourselves, but Nate can't. For some greater context, my dad has fully financially supported Nate for his entire life. He spends his time traveling around, painting. I think in his ideal world, he would be a professional painter, and dating lots of women. He's never had a job as far as I'm aware. He has recurring health issues stemming from an accident when he was a young adult, and he is bipolar. He's never required in-home care of any kind, but he has been intermittently in the hospital throughout my lifetime, maybe an average of once every couple of years for several days at a time. I've never visited him in the hospital though, nor has my dad, I believe, because he's almost always traveling outside of the US. Nate and I didn't grow up together because of the age difference, and I do not like him. He's always been a condescending jerk to me, my sister, and almost everyone, and his financial relationship with my father has always seemed manipulative to me. When my dad told me about the changes to his will, I started crying. Part of it was shock/surprise, but yes, if I'm being brutally honest with myself about the type of person I am, and if I'm being transparent with you all, I had always had an expectation in my mind that when my dad died, both of my siblings and I would all receive a sizable inheritance. For context as per Google, my dad would fall somewhat above upper middle class by US income standards. And it almost felt like an injustice that I had always been a great daughter and very close to my dad, but that I was being cut out of the will so that everything could go to my brother, who's always been kind of a jerk. So I cried. Then I asked my dad if we could stop talking about it. That was a few days ago, and we haven't talked since. My partner says I shouldn't be reacting this way, that I should call my dad and apologize for guilt-tripping him just for wanting to take care of someone who needs it more than I do. I have a moderately successful career so far. For what it's worth, I'm not in any way planning to cut off contact with my dad, spend less time with him, or convince him to change his will back. I won't even bring it up. This is solely backward looking to whether I was an a-hole when I cried and shut down the conversation. I know I mentioned before I'm really biased about Nate, so please give it to me straight if I'm clearly a greedy a-hole here. Now let's read the top judgment for this post. Not the a-hole, and honestly, your dad does suck for cutting you and your sister out. Yes, it's his money, but your brother obviously just expects it from him. It's a slap in the face. I would reconsider my relationship with my father. Not the a-hole for your reaction. Who wouldn't be upset if they found out their parent cut them out of the will completely in favor of someone else? Once you've both had time to calm down and process this, it may be a good idea to talk about it with dad, if only to give you a chance to tell him how you feel and why about what is done. Then you can move forward. I agree with all this for sure. Not the a-hole. If he really cared about Nate, he'd set up a dedicated insurance policy outside of his regular wealth to fund for his needs, not cut off the rest of his family. It would be cheaper too than handing someone an estate to deal with. Not the a-hole. I think it would be a normal reaction to be hurt by being cut out of a will for your other sibling for basically no reason. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for airing family laundry and leaving my dad without help? I'm 17 female and I lived with my single dad, my brother Dave, 15, other brother Josh, 13, baby brother Sam, 10, and our paternal cousin Ben, 16. Our mom died almost 6 years ago. Things were hard, and my dad relied on me a lot to help care for my brothers while he worked. I didn't complain, and just help watch and cook for them when dad wasn't home. And even when he was, because he said he worked all day and needed a break. I put up with it because Dave helped a lot as he got older. Issues cropped up a couple years ago when he had to take in Ben. His dad left, and his mom started drinking to the point where she was unable to care for him. CPS almost got involved, and to avoid that, he came to stay with us. I don't like Ben. He's a creepy little perv that would always comment on my clothes, how short/tight they were, or whatever. And he always busted in my room without knocking. No bedrooms have locks. I once even caught him in my room going through my underwear drawer. And when I yelled at him, he said he was just looking for some socks. He had 3 other guys who he could borrow socks from. Well, the other day, I had run out to the shop and Dave texted me. It was a video. It was out of focus at first, but I froze when it cleared up enough for me to see it was of Ben, in my bedroom and going through my hamper. He has my dirty pairs of underwear, then he just stuffed it in his pocket. That's when the video cut off. I was mortified and immediately came home and called my dad and told him what happened and even sent him the video. He just told me he'd talk once he got off work. Well, I stayed in my room and refused to talk to Ben. But long story short, Dad came home and tried to rug sweep everything. Told me teen boys do weird things sometimes, but he'd talk to him and it wouldn't happen again, and we should all forgive and forget. I couldn't believe it and lost my temper and said this was BS. Ben was being a freak and smelling my dirty undies and going in my room again. I'm supposed to just shrug and forgive and forget? Dad snapped at me to wash my mouth, and I just couldn't see myself sleeping there, so I stormed off to my room and called my maternal aunt/uncle. I told Aunt everything and she was horrified and said she was coming to get me to stay with her. I packed a bunch of my stuff and Dave helped me take a couple bags and boxes outside. Dad was in his room and didn't notice I was gone till the next day. My aunt told everyone on my mom's side what he did, and now he's getting a lot of crap from family for it. He's mad at me for airing family laundry to everyone and making him look like a bad dad. But it feels like he didn't care Ben was being gross towards me. Like he didn't care. Am I overreacting? I know teen boys are gross sometimes, but still. Should I have just done something different? Maybe asked to stay with my aunt and not said why? Am I the a-hole? Edit. I've been getting lots of comments of people thinking Ben was the one to record himself and send it to me. He didn't. Dave, my brother, caught Ben in my room and recorded him on the sly, thinking he was going to catch him stealing or something, not full and creeping that weirdly. Dave said he planned to send a video to our dad as proof Ben was stealing. Dave is sure Ben stole some stuff from him and our other brother Josh. But when he caught Ben smelling my undies, he sent a video to me instead. Also, I'm staying with my aunt indefinitely until my dad either kicks Ben out or really punishes/reprimands him and installs both a knob lock and padlock on my bedroom door. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This should have been nipped in the bud, and boys being boys isn't an excuse. Tomorrow, what else will be excused in this way? Your dad just didn't want to get rid of a maid, so that's the thing. You did the right thing. I didn't think about it before staying with my aunt, but I've been doing the bulk of the house chores since our mom died. I just assumed it was because I was oldest, but my brothers are old enough to do their own stuff now. But like the they don't know how excuse got thrown around until I just got fed up and did my usual chores. I hope you're okay. The way Ben snooped in your room was inappropriate, foul, and I totally understand how you felt. You definitely needed to get out of there. It's clear your dad doesn't take your safety seriously and would rather avoid an awkward situation. Not the a-hole. Your dad is a bad father for not doing anything and standing up for his daughter over someone who is clearly predatory towards you. You deserve to feel safe from the perv and your father's neglect. Hopefully, he comes to realize his mistakes and how awful the misogynistic boys will be boys line is. And how he could have put you in danger for future inappropriate behavior. Stay safe. Yeah, I've felt uncomfortable for a long time. Since the first time I caught him looking for socks in my room. That was over a year ago. I'm scared to think of how many times he's been in my room that nobody caught him. Totally understandable to feel uncomfortable, and totally understandable to get out of that situation. I'd recommend you don't return, at least until Perv is gone, but at most, ever. Just because of the fact that if your dad allows that behavior, what could he allow later, you know? And I'm very thankful your brother was there to help you out. Yeah, Dave doesn't like him either. None of my brothers do. Ben showed up with a very prominent only child attitude, mixed with an I'm older so listen to me attitude towards my brothers. But they just ignored him for the most part, and he doesn't creep on them like he did with me. Now, for the next story. Would I be the a-hole for forcibly adopting my brother's daughter despite his protests? My brother, Mark, has a 4-year-old daughter, Mia. He has never been involved with Mia aside from being on her birth certificate and paying child support. I, however, knew Mia's mother, who was a friend of mine, and she was alright with me being Mia's aunt, despite Mark's objections. Her mother passed away a few months ago. Mia was meant to be staying with Mark after that, but he gave her to her grandparents, who said they can take her short-term but can't look after her long-term and have been reaching out to relatives, including me, asking if someone could take her. I want to take her. I consulted Mia's caseworker, who said it would be fine. My husband and kids are all on board with bringing her into the household, and we have the resources to make it work. Extra bedroom, enough income, etc. However, the caseworker said that Mark would probably need to sign off on it, as he's the only living parent. I decided to broach it with Mark. His response was to call me a witch and tell me to stay out of it, that he stepped down as a dad and I shouldn't force him to now be an uncle to Mia. After that conversation, I spoke to the caseworker again, as well as someone who works in family law. As Mark is not looking after this child, and the grandparents are fine with me taking Mia, there is a legal route we could take to go over my brother's head and adopt Mia without his consent. We decided to take this route. We had to give Mark notice that we want to seek custody, which is going to kickstart a whole legal process, in which we essentially must prove that Mia will be better off with us, which shouldn't be difficult, but will require a hearing, possibly a few, and a court case. Mark is very against this. He says that he doesn't want any level of contact with Mia, as a father or an uncle, and that he feels I'm being unreasonable and not giving him any say in this. He has also said that the court case could have professional repercussions for him, and that if he's deemed unfit, which is essentially what we would be attempting to do, that could harm him if he had kids in the future. He also says that as Mia's father, this should be his decision, and I should respect that it is his choice to not take custody of her and remove himself from her life entirely. I'm worried that I am morally incorrect, as at the end of the day, Mia is Mark's daughter, and her grandparents could probably find someone else in her mother's family to take her. They asked me first and didn't ask anyone else after I expressed an interest. And as Mark isn't willing to give us custody, this would require a legal case, which could have repercussions for Mark. Additionally, Mark has informed some of our immediate family, siblings and parents, of my intentions, and they all agree that I'm in the wrong here. And while I don't give much weight to what our parents think, our siblings agreeing with Mark makes me hesitate. Would I be the a-hole for pursuing this case and not dropping it? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If Mark is worried about the repercussions of a court case, professionally and personally, then he should sign the documentation without making the court case necessary. Mia is loved and wanted, and I hope you manage to get custody. If he doesn't want to be an uncle, he can get out of their lives. Mia staying at the grandparents also means that she is still in his life. He is so selfish. Mia is better off in a loving home where she is wanted, and hope he can provide this. To be clear, she's with her mother's parents, not with mine and Mark's parents. Not the a-hole. Your brother abandoning his motherless child is the biggest a-hole I have ever come across in my entire life. I hope he never has more children. I hope you get full custody of Mia and give her the love she desperately needs. Also, I'd seriously reconsider having your brother in your lives. He is a horrible human being, and incredibly cruel and heartless. He doesn't want to be forced to have contact with his biological child? Fine then. Hope he can take custody of Mia and cut off contact with Mark. Easy fix. Not the a-hole? He seems to be holding on to an unnatural amount of hate to his biological child. You're not forcing him to be an uncle either, or asking him for monetary support in any way. You literally are just trying to parent your niece since her mother is gone, and he refuses to do so. He's always been cruel to Mia. He tried to accuse Mia's mother of cheating on him, so he ordered a DNA test to prove it, and when the test confirmed Mia was his child, Mark had to sign the birth certificate. He had to pay child support, which was about £120 a month, And despite many people explaining to him that 120 pounds a month was a fraction of what Mia's mother was spending, Mark felt that Mia's mother was taking advantage of him, which caused a lot of resentment on his part for both Mia and her mother, despite neither of them doing anything wrong. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to my father? When I, male 38, was 12, my father remarried after my mom died when I was 8. My new stepmother hated my guts and made it her life's mission to turn my life into hell, and my dear old father simply turned a blind eye to her actions. When I was 14, she got pregnant and managed to convince my father to kick me out of the house, probably because she wanted her son to be the only one receiving attention from my dad. So, despite all my protests, I was sent to live with my uncle on the other side of the state. I was so furious, hurt, and sad that I disowned my father and cut ties with him. For me, he was dead, and I refused to even hear anything about him or let him know anything about me. My uncle, who is gay and child-free, became my dad, and he is a real dad. He helped me when I was down, celebrated with me and my accomplishments, and thanks to him, I was able to make something of myself. Well, 2 years ago, my grandpa passed away. My uncle couldn't go to the funeral due to being in the hospital after a car accident, so she asked if I could go in his place, since I had some vacation days from my job, and said yes. At funeral, I sat at the back and saw him for the first time in 22 years. And boy, he looked like the living dead, and nobody was sitting next to him. After the funeral, we had a small gathering at one of my aunt's house where I was informed about what happened on the last 22 years. Turned out, stepmom isolated my father from the rest of the family. And when my half-brother was 15, the witch drained their bank accounts, revealed that her son wasn't my father's son, and ran away with the bastard and the bastard's father. Since then, father had been into deep depression and debt. I couldn't care less, and was just staying out of his view and enjoying the food my aunt had cooked. At some moment, father came to notice my presence and rushed to hug me. I would be lying if I say I didn't see his eyes shining when he saw me. I didn't hug back. After some time, he invited me to sit on the couch and talk. The talk was basically 45 minutes of the most sincere apology I ever heard, and at the end, he asked me if we could try and mend our relationship. I said no. The fact he turned a blind eye for the things his ex-wife did to me, and that he didn't even protest against sending me to the other side of the state, far away from all of my friends, was too much for me to forgive and forget. Yeah, I am that kind of person. When I got back home, my uncle told me about my father's meltdown. He understood, but was disappointed, and so were my aunts. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Super not the a-hole. If anyone tries to play the "but he's your family" card, turn it on them and ask, if we're family, why did he insert everything he did? Take a breath, you're not the a-hole here. It's simple. He turned his back on you, so it shouldn't be a surprise when Opie turned his back on him. The father was at his lowest point, but Opie was at a lower point because he lost his mother and was casted aside by his father. This is the direct consequence of the father's abandonment. Right. The fact that the dad thinks he can just swoop back in after kicking his, then minor, son out, and, in Opie's eyes, choose a new son over him, is just absolutely disgusting. Opie has every right to turn away. Not the a-hole. He had 22 years to apologize and be an actual dad and stand up for you. Where was he during those 22 years when his wife isolated him and turned a blind eye? Where was he when he let her kick you out at 15 to your uncle, who thankfully turned out to be a great man? Where was he after she left him and he failed to show up and apologize? He made bad decisions and now he's reaping what he sowed. Not the a-hole. He had chances to reach out after she left. He didn't. He shouldn't have treated you that way in the first place. Granted, I know this is only your side of the story, but he could have reached out plenty of times. Assuming that after 22 years you should humor him at a funeral was selfish of him. Not the a-hole. It was tacky of your father to force this in a group setting. He threw you out. You never have to reconcile with him. I hope you can put him out of your head. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in my half-brother after my dad kicked me out when I was 7 months pregnant? I, female 32, lost my mother when I was young. My dad met my stepmom and got married to her shortly. I have a half-brother and we grew up together. I was dealing with issues and resorted to the outside for support. I found out I was pregnant when I was 17 and my dad was mad at me. He took away my college fund and saved it for my brother. He and my stepmom told me I needed to get a job since I wasn't going to college and ended up telling me to leave the house when I was 7 months pregnant. I lived with my ex's family despite issues I had with my ex until my daughter was 2 years old. We got separated and moved out from my ex family house and rented a place that I paid for by working at a restaurant. My daughter is doing well and is concentrating on school and art. I heard that my half-brother dropped out of college and that he got involved in debts that my dad ended up paying for. My half-brother went back to live at his parents' house with his pregnant wife, but my dad couldn't pay mortgage anymore and decided to sell the house, pay for debts, and buy a small apartment. My half-brother never reached out nor tried to have a relationship with me. I met him at the restaurant and he started telling me about what happened with my dad. I tried to end the conversation since I wasn't feeling comfortable, and 2 days after that, my dad was at my door. I told him he wasn't allowed to come in after he started asking about my daughter and suddenly started to care. I asked him why he came, and he went on about his health problems, his daughter-in-law's issues with my stepmom, and how the apartment was unbearable with the constant fights and arguments. He asked if I could take in my brother, since his wife can no longer stay with them and causing issues. He said that my apartment was spacious and it's only me and my daughter there. He said that his son can't afford a rent right now and that I should take this chance to get to know him and his family better. I told him I can't take him in. I didn't want to bring it up, but I reminded him that he kicked me out when I was 7 months pregnant. My dad told me that I'm his sister and needed to help and asked if I'd react differently if he was not my half-brother. The argument went on. He told me to not try to punish him by using his son and that my stepmom will then be right about me if I refuse. We haven't talked since, and I have mixed feelings about this. I feel awful, to be honest, and I don't even know how my daughter would react to this. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your father abandoned you in favor of his new family, and now that it's gone to crap, expects you to help him? Don't allow these people anywhere near you or your daughter. It's just too much for me to take. When I'm barely able to stand on my feet, I have experienced difficult times and my family didn't bother even ask how I was doing. They weren't even there for my daughter to try and have a relationship with her. My stepmom still feels the same about me and expects me to keep the peace. I think the best thing for you to do is to go no contact. Block them from all forms of communication and don't look back. Best of luck to you. Not the a-hole. Girl, no. Don't let him gaslight you into guilt. They kicked you out and forgot about you at one of the most vulnerable times in your life. Don't adjust anything for them. Your brother will figure it out if daddy stops saving him. You figured it out. No, ma'am. Don't allow any of this negativity into your space. And who cares what your stepmother thinks about you? She doesn't sign your checks. She doesn't pay your bills. And she doesn't help you with your child. Nope. Yeah, brother can go to a homeless shelter or something. Not the a-hole. He doesn't get to take away your college fund, give it to his son, then come back and ask for your help when his son squanders his opportunities. You're doing well for yourself and your daughter. And him adding that barb about his wife, who even cares what his wife thinks, especially after all this time? Stepmother couldn't even raise her own son to be independent and capable. What makes you think I care about her opinion? Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my youngest daughter that I cannot give her away at her wedding? Long backstory. I have 2 daughters, Anna, elder, and Carly, younger, who are a year apart. Carly and Anna were close when they were younger but drifted apart in their teenage years. I think she started resenting Carly because Carly always seemed to do well, academically and socially. Anna decided to take loans and go to a college she wasn't really a fan of. Carly got a full ride to Anna's dream college. Anna became very resentful after that. She was sure that Carly chose that college to rub it in Anna's face. I tried my best to accommodate them both. Anna refused to talk to Carly and didn't consent to any form of therapy. Carly refused to compromise as Anna kept being unreasonable. In the end, they both stopped talking to each other. Neither of them has ever asked me to choose between them. As long as I don't bring up the other or try to get them to reconcile, I have a good relationship with both of them. Now, Anna is a single mom with a 3-year-old kid, Alex, who is always in between jobs and in debt. Me and my now wife help out when we can. She receives a bit of child support, but I have to admit that she is struggling. Carly, on the other hand, lives comfortably, has an incredible job, and is living with her long-term boyfriend. Recently, Carly announced that her boyfriend proposed and that she wants to plan a wedding in 2022. She asked me to walk her down the aisle, and I may have cried a bit. However, Anna found out, and then she came over to my house and had a breakdown about how she always thought she would be the first to get married in the family, and she has always wanted me to give her away first. I tried to console her, but she ended up getting angry and told me that I should refuse to give away Carly or have a father-daughter dance with her at the wedding. At first, I refused, but she then threatened to cut off all contact between her/Alex and us. If Alex wasn't in the picture, I would have cut Anna off. As things stand, I need to consider Alex's well-being. Carly is staunchly child-free, and it's very possible that Alex is going to be my only grandchild. Without my help, Alex's life is just going to be much harder, and I cannot abandon Alex with a good conscience. While I understood that Carly would be upset, Alex was a child, and he is priority. I spoke to Carly, explained the situation. I told her that there was still time, and I would figure out a way to get Anna to change her mind. If not, I still promised her that I would still be very involved with her wedding, except those 2 things. Carly just laughed and told me not to bother with her anymore, and told me she wasn't going to invite me to her wedding. I definitely know that Anna is an a-hole putting me in this position. But am I the a-hole for expecting Carly to be more understanding? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You're letting your daughter and her selfish wants win. You're not choosing Alex. You're choosing Anna over Carly. Shame on you. If I were you, I'd call Anna's bluff. She sounds like she's not doing too hot in life. My guess is she'd go no contact for a week before realizing she needs all the support she can get. I agree with this assertion. You would not be abandoning your grandchild. Anna would be purposefully taking him away from you. Sounds a bit like you were just giving in to the daughter who throws the biggest tantrum. It sucks to see parents choose the selfish, bratty kid because of the grandkids, yet throw away their other daughter who is obviously not as important as she isn't providing you with grandkids. You're the a-hole. Stop rewarding bad behavior. Carly deserves to be walked down the aisle by her dad. I would also be prepared to bet that if Anna ever gets married, she will still expect you to walk her down the aisle and throw a tantrum to make it happen. You're the a-hole. Holy crap, are you the a-hole? Your oldest child has been an abusive monster to your younger daughter for the better part of her life, and as you've described it here, you've been complicit in it. The fact that you would even remotely entertain Anna's insane demand, grandchild or no, shows how unsupportive you've been. If you want any hope of keeping Carly in your life, tell Anna she's being ridiculous and you're not going to allow her to dictate the terms of your relationship with Carly. Jesus Christ, I can't believe you need someone to tell you this. You're the a-hole 100%. Neither of them has ever asked me to choose between them. Well, Anna just asked, and you gave in to her immediately. You just chose your overly jealous daughter over what? The one that was more successful? Carly's being punished because she was better in school, more social, etc.? How is that fair? And using your reasoning, as Carly will never give you grandchildren, is that the price of love to you? It sounds like Anna has been throwing herself a pity party because she doesn't want to come to terms with the fact that she is different than her sister. Not worse or better, but different. And you just validated her not coming to terms with that. I'm glad Carly uninvited you from the wedding. Who treats their daughter like that and still expects to be in their life? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not following ex's wishes to not be involved with my son? Well, she was technically a fling, but I'll still say ex though. Anyways, I was a young and dumb 18-year-old who thought I was so cool for hooking up with an older married woman. She was 30, and that was considered older to me. I admit, it was not my proudest moment, but I was going through a bad time in my life and was making a lot of reckless choices. Things ended after 3 months and didn't hear from her again. Don't think I'll have enough characters to explain the whole story, so I will need to keep it brief. I found out we had a son together, Jay, who's now 20. He knew about me for years and found me. Her husband found out she cheated as soon as she got pregnant, but still stuck around while Jay was growing up. I never had a clue about his existence until now. When Jay reached out, he just wanted to get to know me, so we met up. From there, we started talking more regularly, and I learned about his home life. Jay doesn't get along with his dad at all, felt they were never close for as long as he can remember, and there was always this detachment that he didn't understand until he was told the truth. The more I spent time with Jay, the closer we became. It's made me feel sad, honestly, that I couldn't be in his life sooner, and feel like I missed so much. We talk to each other regularly, and he comes to my house almost every other weekend. Safe to say, we've bonded quite a lot. A couple nights ago, I was contacted by my ex, and she told me Jay has completely pulled away from her husband and doesn't want to speak to him. She feels my relationship with Jay is what's causing this and asked me to limit contact with him. When I refused, she berated me for causing them problems and said I don't even belong in his life when I've only been a dad less than a year. I ended up getting some things off my chest that I didn't get the chance to do before since finding out I had a son. Our fight didn't get anywhere, and I haven't spoken to her. I did talk to Jay about this, and he said whenever he visited, they fought, and Jay got tired of his controlling behavior. Turns out, they were also fighting because of the fact Jay was spending more time with me. While it makes me feel good that my son wants to spend time with me, I do feel guilty that it's caused him to distance himself from my ex-husband. I feel like my presence has made their strained relationship worse, and I don't know if I'm being a selfish a-hole here by not limiting my involvement. I have encouraged Jay to speak with him, but he seems set on not wanting any more to do with him. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He deserves a relationship with you. It's great. You welcome him with open arms and are treating him with honest and caring respect. It's clear he doesn't get enough of that at home. Also, don't blame yourself for being young and dumb. You were only 18, and she was the experienced adult who should know better. I wonder what people would say if it was a 30-year-old man who impregnated an 18-year-old. Edit. In case it wasn't clear, my last comment is to imply that this woman sounds like a predator. 18 is so young, and I hate that OP blames himself when what she did was very shifty. As for the strain on the marriage is from her cheating, she should have known your son would come and find you eventually. Sounds like your son's mother and her husband thought, as long as you weren't in the picture, they could pretend to get past the cheating. Not the a-hole. Your son is a grown adult and can choose to spend time with whomever he wants. If his stepdad did a better job bonding with him as a child, then maybe he wouldn't cast him aside like he is doing now. This drama is on them. 1. The mom cheated with Opie. 2. Her husband stayed with her and resented the affair baby. 3. The mom never told Opie he was a dad, then gets all pissy because he's getting involved now and only knew him for a year, because he only learned of his existence a year ago. Yeah, I think this drama is on them sums it up pretty well. Not the a-hole. Wow, you have done everything right and nothing wrong. Sounds like Jay unfortunately has a bit of a toxic life at home. Jay is a grown man and can make his own choices. I feel sad for Jay that he has felt that detachment from his, let's call him stepfather, but realistically, Jay should be and feel supported to get to know you. I know this as a dad. If I was in his situation, I would support my son to meet his bio dad. Hopefully that made sense. If crap hits the fan, I'd be prepared to take him in and show him the fatherly love is obviously lacked for 20 years. It's what's made me regret my action the most, although I could never regret having Jay. He and his dad had to live with the consequences of our actions. Jay's been living on his own since he started college, so he's not currently living with them, but I'd still be willing to help out in the future if he ever needs it. I'm doing what I can to make up for the years we lost now. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying no to my nephew using my late son's college fund instead? My wife and I, 36 female, 37 male, lost our son Ryan 3 years ago when he was 11. Before he was born, my wife's parents gave us a large sum to start up on his college fund, and we've been putting money on the side for years so that he can use it once he went to college. Unfortunately, he never got the chance, and we haven't touched that money since. It's taken time, but with a lot of therapy, we made peace with our loss. We have even started talking about trying to have another baby next year. My sister and her family came to our house Sunday morning, and we were talking about my nephew Steven now being in his last year of high school. It brought up questions about what his plans were after graduating, and he said college, though he's not sure what he wants to study. When my nephew wasn't around, my sister mentioned they have been worrying about how they'll afford college for him. His GPA is average, and he doesn't do any activities outside of his studies, so they say they don't think he'll have much of a chance with scholarship. He'll have to rely on student loans and financial aid. My sister mentioned Ryan's college fund and how it would be a huge help if Steven got that for himself. We were caught off guard and didn't know what to say. With talks about having a baby, we decided we wouldn't touch that money for now and had to tell her no. We explained we're not sure if we want to use that money for future baby expenses or if maybe that will be our child's college fund to use in the future. My sister became upset and felt it wasn't fair we were keeping this money all for a hypothetical child when my nephew is an actual living person who will benefit from it. She said we won't struggle financially with a new child since we both earn a good income and we can always save more money. Which is true, but there's no guarantee we'll always be making the same income with the state of the world, and at least that money's there now. She kept pushing this to the point where it was becoming an argument. What struck a nerve was when my sister said, "It's not like anyone else is using that money right now." I don't know why it bothered me. I suppose it's the way she casually mentioned my son no longer being with us. My wife was growing uncomfortable with the whole thing, so I firmly said no, and that's the end of it. There was tension after, and my sister was in a sour mood until they left. I later received a message from her later on stating how selfish she thinks we are being, and she thought we would help Steven since we claim to love him so much, yet won't help him provide for his future. I didn't want to get into it with her and decided not to respond, but I still keep reading her text. Are we in any way being a-holes here? We do love Steven, and we want him to succeed, but we had already agreed that money would be used for our future child. It's all very conflicting, and hard not to feel guilty over our choices. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If they needed scholarship so much, then she should have been on his butt so he would have merits, in order to be a competitive candidate for them. Her plan to fund her son's education is your family's college fund? That's moronic and entitled. But also, there are so many different scholarships that he could apply for. Discover has tons for like $1,000. That would help, that I find it hard to believe he couldn't get any. Not the a-hole. Imagine being this entitled that you feel like you can stake a claim to a dead child's savings account. Do not, I repeat, do not give them any money. Good luck on your future maybe baby, and in the meantime, please enjoy your time with more supportive friends and family. And it was given to them by Opie's wife's parents. I could maybe see it if it had come from Opie's parents that he shares with his sister. But this is so outrageous that, I don't know, it's just pretty outrageous. I mean, you've got everything here. Money, dead child, entitlement. Yuck. Opie, you're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your sister, though? Whoo boy. If there was an Azziest A on Reddit award, she'd win. She knows you're still processing a tremendous loss and thought that this was the perfect time to spring this on you and lay the guilt trip heavy when you didn't immediately cave. F her. You are not the selfish one. She is. Selfish, cold-hearted. Insert adjective that will get me banned from this sub. She told you that you must not love your nephew. Otherwise, you'd give him the money. Well, by that logic, she doesn't love her own child. Otherwise, she would have started saving for his education years ago. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to replenish a college trust for my deceased husband's affair child? I, 52 female, am in an unusual situation and need an outside perspective, but want to maintain my anonymity. 18 years ago, it was revealed at my husband's funeral he had a pregnant mistress, 40 female. Obviously, I didn't just take the woman's word for it and stated that she wouldn't get a cent until there was a DNA test. When it was proven true, I was devastated, but agreed to set up a trust for the child for college and agreed to let them live in one of my rental properties in a good area rent-free until her child was 18. She had to pay for utilities. She agreed, and I made it clear that I wasn't going to do anything else for her or the child. I also made it clear that I wouldn't take on the responsibility of fostering a relationship between our children and that it would be my husband's side of the family's job. Fast forward 12 years and the mistress' child got sick and needed medical treatment. She didn't have enough money for what insurance wouldn't cover and reached out to me for support. I reminded her what our original agreement was and to borrow money from relatives for assistance. She said her credit wasn't good enough for a loan at the time, and she didn't have anyone who she could borrow the money from. When I wasn't budging, she got upset and accused me of being a monster for not helping a child in need. I reminded her that I already helped her child by setting up a college trust, but she could use some of that money for the costs if she really needed it. She agreed and her child pulled through. Now that the child is 18 and intending to go to college in the fall of 2021, the mistress reached out to me about the trust and was upset when she found out that the amount was much less than what was originally agreed upon. I reminded her it was less because some of the money was used for the medical bills and that I never said I would put the money back in. I also informed her that I was going to start charging her rent the following year and she would need to pay or move out. I didn't care that she was upset because I was always straightforward about the situation. But now my mother-in-law and sister-in-law are starting to say that it's unfair to the child. I don't see it that way because the mistress had at least 6 more years to figure something out. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Thank you so much for giving out your opinions and advice so far. However, I do see some reoccurring comments and questions, so I wanted to give more info just in case it changes your stance. 1. I am an American, and I live in the United States. 2. My husband and I were in our 30s, and he died in an accident, so there was no will. We were strong middle class but not rich. My husband had a life insurance policy that named me as the primary beneficiary and then our children, a house that wasn't paid off yet, $20,000 worth of his own savings, and 2 cars that was both in our names but also wasn't paid off at the time of his death. His mistress could have sued, but it wouldn't have been much. 3. The rental property that I let her stay in was an inheritance from my side of the family that was solely in my name, so my husband had no legal ownership of at the time of his death. 4. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law don't know the full details, but they know I have enough money to the point where I could pay for the mistress' child to go to a decent 4-year school and not miss it, even during this pandemic. They, on the other hand, can't. Edit 2. Also forgot to mention that because my husband died in an accident, that I got some money for that too. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Blows my mind how much family members love to say it's unfair when they're not willing to lift a finger to help. Every time anyone mentions it to you from now on, you're more related to her than I am. You pay. Literally, just repeat yourself. Expected to pay for the mistress' kids' college. Unbelievable. The mistress had a deal with you where you allowed her to live rent-free in a property for 18 years while she only had to pay for utilities, and agreed to put money in a trust only once, and you didn't give her agreement to replenish it if she, by any chance, need to use that money. She probably got more money than she would have gotten if she had went after his estate at the time of his death. If they're so keen on supporting the affair child through college, they should not expect you to. Also, I guarantee now that she no longer gets free rent. She will probably end up moving, or you have to evict her due to non-payment of rent. Edited post for more info. Also, she lived 18 years rent-free. Seems to me that mother-in-law and father-in-law think that their precious baby boy did nothing wrong and that his widower has to pay for their equally precious baby grandchild to go to college. OP already gave the mistress a lot more than what she deserved. If the mistress wants money, she can take it up with the mother-in-law and father-in-law since they're so effing interested. 18 years free rent and a college fund when OP has 0 obligation to this child? Wow, this woman is generous AF. Because if it were me, I would have never agreed to a DNA test and told her to kick rocks. That's just me though, and I would have told mother-in-law and father-in-law to deal with it if they really want the child to be taken care of. I did a DNA test because I believe everyone has the right to know their genetic history for medical purposes. Not the a-hole. She was hoping for a free ride. No judge would entertain her if she tried anything legal. 18 years of free rent plus college money that she pulled from before and didn't replenish? She could have saved money or fixed her credit after 18 years of no rent. You fulfilled your agreement. You're good. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting financially my sister off when I found out that I was the only sibling paying for her? I have 3 siblings. I am the eldest. My youngest sister is the only one of us who didn't attend college. She got pregnant and dropped out few months into college. I live in another state and see them only a couple of times a year. I am not really close to any of them. My sister fell into deep financial crap after the guy took off, and the baby, B, had a ton of medical issues that she couldn't afford. In the end, she moved in with my parents. Me and the other siblings decided to pitch in some money each month to help the youngest sister. At first, they told me that since I earned the most, I should contribute more. I firmly said that I will contribute what everyone else is going to contribute. They agreed. It's been a year, and recently, my youngest sister reached out to me and said that she needed money urgently because B needed a surgery the next month. I was a little perplexed. B hasn't been to the hospital for the past 2 months, and the money from those 2 months from all of us should have been more than enough to cover the surgery. I kept pointing this out and asked her what happened to the money. She kept saying that money got used up. At this point, I told her that she was going to have to show me some bills, and she broke down, saying that I am the only one who is giving her money, and my parents/my other siblings asked her to keep that a secret from me. They decided that I am the only one who should pay for everything because I earn more and I am child-free, while the others are not. None of my siblings have kids, but they want to prepare for the future while I don't have to, because I am not going to have children. So, for the past year, I am the only one who has been helping. What's worse, every time she needed X amount of money, she would call me and tell me that she needed 3 times money and tell me that my siblings already paid their share. I was so pissed off when she confessed. I immediately hung up on her and refused to talk to any of them after that. This literally happened a few days ago. I haven't sent any money this month or for the surgery. Everyone obviously thinks I am the a-hole. I told my siblings that until they match what I have paid last year, they aren't going to see another cent from me. My siblings told me that they cannot afford that much right now and begged me to continue paying or, at the very least, pay for another year so everyone can figure something else out. I refused to. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. There are resources she could apply for. The entire family except for you are the a-hole. Exactly. She expects her siblings and parents to pay for everything. I get that it's hard having a sick child, but she needs to apply for every benefit she can get. To be fair, she may have. I hear medical bills are crazy in some places, and often benefits don't even get you to the poverty line. Not the a-hole. Clearly, they were running a game on you. That's really quite crappy of your family. I understand the baby has medical issues. Maybe that's part of the issue here, but why wouldn't you pay for a nanny so she could go to work? Your whole family is creating an environment of dependency instead of helping your sister grow. One day, your sister won't have a baby to take care of anymore, and she won't have any work experience either. If you give her another $1, let it be for childcare, and let her figure everything else out on her own. It's not OP's responsibility to pay for a nanny. Not the a-hole. What the hell is wrong with your entire family? This reminds me very much of this AITA thread from the past summer, where one of the non-paying siblings in a similar family, underperforming child gets bankrolled by better-off sibling who is being deceived by their selfish sibling's level of participation, wanted to go tell her brother to pay up after he cut off the money spout. OP, you are not the a-hole, and nobody will blame you for putting all these people in low to no contact. They're ticks trying to suck your blood. There's no benefit to you. You'll only be weakened and sickened, and they'll keep sucking until you're used up. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.